Welcome everyone to Real Estate with Gwen Price, and I'm with Cory Frith from a Buyer's Choice Inspections. I think I've got that right, Cory.
Yeah, Buyer's Choice Home Inspections. Yes, hi Gwen.
Yeah, so we've been doing a monthly little discussion about issues that come up in with home inspections or lack thereof. But one of the ones that's kind of being an issue right now is basements and water coming in the basements with the ground frozen and it's raining and it's thawing and water likes to find its way in somewhere, right?
Yes, it's like I've said before, every season has its pros and cons to when we're inspecting. And this time of year, the big pro is, yeah, you can see where the water's flowing and how the property responds to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually doing a pre-listing inspection for a gentleman, and on the exterior of the property, the downspouts were all going into the weeping tile. And it's one of the things we always call out, let's get them extending above grade so you can see how they're performing. Mm-hmm. And when I went around the side of the house, the water was just bubbling out over the weeping tile out of the downspout that's going to the ground. It was just pouring up and out like a fountain. So now it's just seeping right down to the foundation, right? It's all going down to the foundation instead of away. So there's so many things that we get to see this time of year, and phone calls that come in. Hey, my basement's or I see some staining, and becomes a season of investigating for sure.
Well, and I guess because the ground is frozen, it's not absorbing it. So water needs a way to flow, and it will usually find some little nook or cranny to make its way into the house.
Yeah, it'll the path of least resistance, right? So and this is where when we're doing our inspections, whether it's a pre-listing for someone selling their home or a standard inspection for someone's buying a home, so much about maintaining a dry basement is maintenance on the outside of the property, nothing to do with inside. But inside is where we find the problems. So
right, because a lot of it can be channeling it away from the house with either grading or like the downspouts, redirecting them in the right direction, right?
Definitely.
Because you do see it where it's going right down to the foundation, or it's broken off, or there is no. Actually, how do you feel about eaves troughs? Some people think it's not a great thing because there can be ice dams or accumulation of debris. Like what is the best thing to do?
Yeah, eaves troughs with downspouts extending above grade 4 to 6 feet away from the foundation is optimal. As with anything else, there's always maintenance required, right? So if you maintain the eaves troughs, if you clean the leaves out of them in the fall before the snow falls, that way when the snow falls and it melts a little bit, the water is not going to ice up on top of the leaves. It'll use the eaves troughs and go away. It's always the way to go, because when you don't have it, when that snow melts, it sheds off the roof, it's falling right down to your foundations, right down, and it's going to go down to the footings. And then if you have ice damming with or without eaves troughs, you're going to receive ice damming because that's an indication of something else not operating properly in the home, right? In the whole envelope. We need to take a look at the attic, look at ventilation, look at possible heat loss into the attic. It's not the eaves troughs that are creating the ice damming. They may be enhancing it. And again, not a bad thing. At least now we know we have a problem. Let's go do a little bit of investigating and resolve it. But to your point, this time of year, we got to make sure we have good grading on a property. And we're always looking at that. You want to make sure it's not a negative slope towards the foundation. We have that positive slope away from the foundation. Eaves troughs are functioning properly, right? They're all attached to the home securely. Downspouts extend, like I said, 4 to 6 feet away from the foundation. And something else we want to look at as well is just sometimes when we improve the grading, we can create other problems. So if you have a basement in a home and you have windows, if you don't have like a 6-inch clearance from the grading up to the bottom of your window, and now you have to add that grading, now that grading is right level with your window. So the snow's there, the rain's there, and it can, when the snow melts, it might go into the window if the caulking isn't done right. So there's a lot of things to look at and consider and how to protect your basement.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen where the window is totally covered with snow. I'm sure there's a few issues there, like safety issues, but also, you got to keep that snow away from, or do a window well properly, right? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people just dig a hole and think that solves everything, but not
Yeah.
necessarily, right?
And
Like, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I like that you use the term properly with the window well, because exactly right. You go and install a window well, and if you don't do it right, you create other issues, right?
Yeah,
So to your point, if you're not well versed in that area, please like reach out and hire a professional contractor that specializes in that type of work to
yeah.
do the upgrade to your home.
Yeah, because you are exposing your foundation at that point to, the open air, basically. All
Yeah.
of a sudden it was covered up with ground, and now it's open. And then where's the water that's going into that window well going? Is it draining away properly? Yeah, so I see all kinds of things, interesting things, and I'm sure you do too. Like,
Yeah.
how do you feel about those grates or those covers for eavesdropping? Is that a good thing to do, or can they also get all plugged up and
Yeah. And again, it's pros and cons, I guess, depending on what you're trying to protect it from. Some types of vegetation falling from trees make those types of guards, those gutter guards, more prone to clogging, right? So again, just like you would in the fall, you still got to go up there and you got to clean the debris off them. They've come so far though. There's so many different types out there on the market. I really encourage people to do the research on them, because they do make some great ones that are designed to help the leaves shed off and not get clogged on top, versus the ones you used to buy in a roll 25 feet with all little holes, and you just
yeah, yeah,
flex it and it would snap in. They're going to clog a lot.
yeah. Our
You have
place
to
is
spend a little
so
bit more
high.
money. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to spend a
well,
little more money, but they do make
yeah,
some really great quality products out there.
yeah.
And I think as long as it's like anything else, you kind of get what you pay for sometimes. So if you invest in
Mhm.
it and buy a quality product, you're going to receive, I think you'll be pleased with the choice to install them.
Well, especially our place, like we're a two-story with a full basement, so like that's pretty high up there. We're not doing it anymore anyway. We're gonna have to get somebody else to do something, but
Yeah.
so far I think it's working not too bad. I don't know. I I don't feel like that's my part of my job, so I'll let my
That's
hubby
that's
do
the
it.
other person's job.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that people, you just kind of go in and out your door, and you don't think about what's going on the outside and how it has implications to the inside
Yeah.
of the house, right?
Yeah. The home really is it's a building envelope, and we've seen situations where people have water coming in, and sometimes it's inevitable. In Sudbury,
Mhm.
we have a lot of homes built on rocks. They have
Yep.
rocks in the basement.
Yep.
The backyard, it's rocks on a 45-degree. It's inevitable that water's coming in. So now
Yeah.
you have to really build that home, and with the thought process of not if water comes in, when the water comes in, what's my exit strategy?
Yeah.
And so that's what we see sometimes in the older homes. But that being said, we're into some new homes, and they have the sump pit is there,
Cute.
nicely done. It's the pump is there. It's on a dedicated circuit. Everything's done right. On the
Mhm.
discharge tube, piping, sorry, they have a check valve so that when the water goes out, when the pump shuts off, whatever water comes back in, it doesn't fall into the pit. The check valve's there to stop it.
Yeah.
But then when we're outside, there's the discharge hose, and it's sticking out of the block foundation 6 inches. There's no extension on it. So
Right.
you're pumping all that water out that's coming in
Yeah.
through the foundation.
Yeah.
You're pumping it out 6 inches from the foundation. It's just
Yeah.
like same as a downspout. Let's get an
Yeah.
extension on there. And we see that on new builds
Yeah.
sometimes, you
Mhm.
know. And to your point about eaves troughs earlier, on a new build, eaves troughs aren't standard. That's an add-on, that's an
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah.
Right? So even when we do put the proper processes in place, if we don't follow it through to the end and verify it, yeah, where is this going?
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
becomes a perpetual problem. You haven't really solved it
Yeah.
100%. So we're always
Yeah.
with those types of those scenarios, and always have to have those types of alert signals.
Well, and I've really, I mean, there's some new technology out there. I've seen some sump pump things that I'm thinking, oh my God, what is that thing over in the corner there? Because it doesn't look like what I'm familiar with. Just what do you call that? It's not a basket. It's a kind of
Oh,
the
yeah, they just put
bucket or whatever. And then you got
a
the
liner
pumper.
in there, right?
But
Yeah,
but some of them are like state of the art, and
yeah.
there's a whole different thing going on with them. So there's new technology out there for a lot of different things, including sump pumps, right?
Yeah, and there's so many different types of pumps, like you said, Gwen, and then they have the battery backup ones.
Yeah.
And then some of them are very closed, they're closed pits that we can't see in, it's hard to test. But yeah, anytime we're in a basement, there's a sump pump, we're always going to lift the floats on it and see if it's actually working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and again, too, knowing the area where your home is.
Yeah.
Some areas have a lot of very sandy, right? It's a natural filter. We'll see pits and they're bone dry all summer long.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. There's some that you see the water's like right to the top, and yeah, there is a pump, but then sometimes you look and it's, even at this time of year, there's very minimal water in there. So yeah, it's interesting, and you're right, Sudbury, just the nature of the city itself, it's totally different right in the heart of the city where there's a lot of rock, and then the outlying areas, there can be out in the valley different, soil conditions there. I think it's mostly sandy out there, but
it is,
but
really
yeah, and then you can be dealing with clay and all of the problems clay creates, right?
Yeah, and it's cool. Like you talked about technology earlier, and we have some tools that we use when we're inspecting, because sometimes basements are wet, but we can do a really good job at having the appearance of them being to be dry. When I see fresh paint and it's a block foundation, it's not a finished basement and it's all fresh paint. First thing goes to your head is, what are we covering up? And at the same time, they're trying to sell a home, so you want to put your best foot forward, and you're going to put some fresh paint on the walls. I've seen all kinds of different scenarios. One where I literally just touched the wall and the paint, there was a bubble there and it burst out and water came out at me.
Well, and I have actually told someone when I was listing it, they were going to paint everything to try to make it look prettier, and it was a block and there was rock, and I said, no, just leave it so people can actually see what's here. It's never going to be anything other than storage, that sort of thing. And yeah, so to paint it exactly that, people think, oh, why did you paint that? What is it? Yeah. So sometimes, you can clean things up and there isn't anything wrong, but that's often what goes through people's heads.
Yeah, it makes people be a little skeptic, right? And everyone has a story. They know someone or they've experienced it themselves.
Yeah, so the number of houses I've been, owned personally, and I think one of the first ones, it was like literally, we were doing something, and there was a gusher coming through the wall of it, and and back in those days, there was no home inspections. My first house, there was nothing like that. You took the word of whatever, the owner, and just went on. And we're into that kind of thing in a way now because of the multiple offers situation, right? And sometimes, there isn't, you're taking somebody at their word. And unfortunately, that can not always be a good thing.
Like right now, like 65% of my business is doing pre-offer advisory services where I'm going in with them on their viewing, half an hour if they can get an hour block, and we still inspect everything, but there's no report. And definitely this time of year, basements, right? First place we start after we're done outside. And like I said earlier about technology, we have a moisture meter we use. So if it's a finished basement, we have a pinless moisture meter, so it does no damage to the home. But by first off, we set it so it takes a reading for the humidity level in that property, in that basement, and then afterward we can start using it and probing the walls and get moisture content readings. And we'll see 9%, 15%, and that's relatively dry in a basement. And then you come to the next wall and it jumps to 25%. Well, why is that wall so much higher? And typically what we find when we look outside, the grading is flat or negative, or that's the one area where maybe there's no eaves troughs on. So again, going back to that question earlier, I think it's great to put eaves troughs on. Maintain a dry basement. And lastly, the other thing we'll use as well, maybe just to reaffirm what we're suspicious about, is our thermal imaging camera. And we can use that, and it can't see through a wall, but it can give us a nice thermal scan of the wall, and it'll pick up insulation voids, but it'll also pick up if we have areas of high moisture intrusion. I got a call from a lady, she had her home inspected, and this spring, lots of water coming in the basement. And when I went there, yes, with my moisture meter, there's water on the floor, we could see it. It wasn't about trying to see if there's an issue, there was one. but now we're trying to kind of figure out where is it coming from.
Mhm.
And moisture meter picked up some higher spots, some higher readings. So we started focusing on that one wall. And when I used the thermal imaging camera, you could really see the different depths of where the drywall was sucking up the moisture.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really helped us pinpoint within like a 12-inch area where here's likely the source, and we won't know for sure until we take the drywall down.
Mhm.
But it really gave us the ability to navigate. Do we have to open up 40 feet of drywall?
Yeah.
Or looking at maybe a 4 or 5 foot section
Yeah.
of drywall, right? So a lot less
Yeah.
damage. But yeah,
Do you find, somebody said that to me, they find that there's more rain going on in the winter times or the colder weather? I don't know. I haven't really noticed myself. It just seems every year we're bound to get rain at some part of the winter, and that's
yeah,
when a lot of problems sure crop up.
yeah,
And it's always, yeah, when there is those kind of days and I'm showing the property, the first place I want to go is down to the basement to see
yeah,
is there any visible water, right? And
yeah.
yeah, oftentimes there is, but
Yeah, and we're
yeah,
looking at staining on drywall, or if it's
yeah,
blocked, it's dry today, but then you can sometimes see signs of past moisture intrusion. So we'll look for that as well, and
mhm,
just really educate that consumer on um, the reasons behind this. And we'll see like a
yeah,
white powdery substance, and it's efflorescence, and it's a
yeah,
residue left behind from moisture going through the block. Um, and I'll tell people that doesn't mean that this basement is leaking every year. It could have been an isolated incident where
mhm,
I've seen where a dog digs a hole behind the house up against the footing, up against the foundation, sorry,
yeah,
and water pools and comes in. Fix the
yeah,
grate, never happens again.
yeah,
Happened to a friend of mine. But now we have evidence in the basement that water has come in.
mhm,
So that just shows how sensitive basements can be in new
yeah.
homes and in old homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is no perfect situation. And over the lifespan of a house, there's bound to be something happening to it, right? I
Yeah,
mean, and we do have houses in this city that are well over 100 years old now. And
yeah,
you're right, there is some new construction and there's different standards now than there was way back then.
yeah.
But
And it's
the,
nice when the basements aren't finished, and we'll always
yeah,
spend time to discuss with the clients as well. Like, you know, if the basement's finished and you're moving in, live in it for a little while, as if treat it like it's going to be a wet basement until you've got some history with the home. It's a dry
mhm,
basement. You've gone through the 4 seasons. Now you can live in it a little bit differently and with a little more confidence. If you're developing your basement, turning it into a living space, there's some great products out there. And if you're going to hire a contractor and work with that builder, there's some great products designed specifically for basements, right? So
yeah,
it gets your floors elevated. It's not directly on the concrete because the concrete's going to
yeah,
sweat, allows it to breathe. So if we do get a little bit of moisture, a little bit of intrusion, it doesn't create mold. We got the airflow going in there so it can evaporate and keep everyone healthy in the home.
mhm,
And again, just with smart building practices and the materials and the
yeah,
resources available today, you can build in your basement, you can renovate, you can live in it with confidence, even if some water does intrude into the basement, and you don't end up going to your insurance company putting in a $20,000 insurance claim.
yeah. Well, they're
You
not
know,
fans of
so,
of any of that,
so,
that's for
you know,
sure. And I always say, my grandmother would shudder to think what we put down in basements, because basements were, I mean, 100-year-old homes, they were cellars, right? They weren't meant
yep,
to be rec rooms, another bathroom, another bedroom,
yep.
all of those things.
All
So,
her
but
pickled beets went down
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's why, I mean, some basements are low, right? They're just enough to stand up in, but they weren't meant to the purpose that we're putting them through right now. But
They weren't designed to be a living space, right? Like we
yeah,
use them
yeah,
today.
yeah. So
And that's the one of the things that we offer with all of our standard inspections as well. When we do a standard full home inspection, we offer a 90-day warranty. And in that warranty, one of the areas that's covered is sewer backup, sewer guard, mold as well. So if, it gives them 90 days from the day we inspect it, um, things happen. The home
yeah,
maybe gets left vacant for 60 of those days. It's all buttoned up nice and tight, and mold will grow in the corners that wasn't there when we inspected. Or
mhm,
maybe personal property was blocking a section that we couldn't inspect and we can't move things around.
yeah,
Now you move in on possession day and you find mold, you're protected. So, and that's included in our standard inspection at no extra cost. So we really try to make sure that through this process, through this transaction, we can assist, comfort, and protect all the parties involved. And that's one of the reasons I got into doing this now with this business, was just to help people. You know, you hear all the stories out there,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating to hear. And you know, having gone through some of that myself, now I love this company that I work with, because we do look after all parties, the sellers, the buyers, the realtors as well. And you know, it's not just words. We have actions and tools behind this phrase of assist, comfort, and protect. And I just feel for people in this market trying to buy their first home or whatnot, and going in with no conditions. It scares me. I worry for them. And that's why we keep busy now with pre-offer advisory services. Again, we don't call it inspection because there is no report, but that aside, we're still looking at everything with that in-depth scale that we would on a standard inspection. At least they can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Well, and Cory, what is the best way to reach you? What's the phone number, or is it better to go online, or both?
You know, both are great. They can call me at 705-618-1396. Or if they want to check out our website, it's abuyerschoice.com/Sudbury. And on there, they can check out all of my clients' Google reviews as well, see what they had to say, and they can learn more about the inspection services that we offer. Because even in this hot market, they have options. You know, we can get in there with them before they make an offer if they want to go in with no conditions. And at least they can go in there, have a licensed inspector, spend an hour in that home for them, and we can identify potential problems, current problems, maybe past problems, and they can make an informed decision and make a very confident and aggressive bid if necessary. But yeah, it's crazy times. So there's
it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Cory. It was great, very informative, and we'll talk to you again in a month.
Sounds good. My pleasure as always, Gwen. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.